What could possibly be more entertaining than an evening or an afternoon at the movies? Something magical happens every time you enter and take your seat as you anticipate seeing your favorite star on the big screen. He was the first and perhaps the biggest superstar of rock and roll. He was also one of the top 10 movie stars of his era. His appeal was as a rebel, a bad boy. But he was also loved for being a good guy, someone who could charm the ladies, even your mother. He could play a convincing cowboy, and even an Indian too, a half-breed. His name was Elvis, Elvis Presley, and my name is Les Krantz, and this is Elvis Presley in the movies. Before he was the king, this boy from Mississippi drove a truck, and he hated it. Unsure of what he wanted in life, Elvis went to night school to study to be an appliance repairman, but appliances just weren't his calling. Elvis's true love was rock and roll and gospel music. From a $4 do-it-yourself recording session at Sun Records, he parlayed his talents to rock star status in less than a year. By 1955, RCA Records signed a lucrative contract with him, and a year later, in 1956, 20th Century Fox cast him in his first movie. Never before has there been so much excitement about a film debut.
As far as the eye can see, a press of excited youngsters from all over the region are on hand for the return of Elvis Presley to Tupelo, Mississippi, the town where he was born. A phenomenon recalling Marilyn Monroe's sensational debut in show business, Mr. Teenager is on his way to attaining a popularity unparalleled in theater history. But hear this, all ye young at heart, the handsome king of rock and roll will soon be seen in his first picture titled Love Me Tender. It's a CinemaScope attraction with Richard Egan and Deborah Paget that will be released during the Thanksgiving holiday period. And in it, he proves to be as naturally talented as a dramatic actor as he is as a singing entertainer. His parents here with him share all of his successes, and Elvis is never too busy to oblige his young admirers.
Elvis was just plain fun to watch on the big screen. What you couldn't see on the Ed Sullivan Show was there, in plain view. Love Me Tender featured music written by the king himself. Elvis's first time in the movies would be one of the most successful film debuts in cinematic history. Not because of the screenplay, the musical score, or even his performance. It was because Elvis was in it.
Out of the great Southwest comes the sensational adventure of the notorious Reno brothers and the girl they fought over.
I know you and Kathy used to be kind of fond of each other, but... well, you ain't got no hard feelings against either one of us now, have you?
Hard feelings? Me? Why, of course not.
Say you want your lover. Say you ain't laid awake every night by my side thinking of him. Wishing I was Vance. Wishing you'd waited for him and never married me.
It was the first of 31 movies that would gross over $150 million. Elvis became not just the king of rock and roll, but the heartthrob of teenage girls around the world and the male sex symbol of the 1950s. The next year, in '57, the musical bad boy still had his rebel image, so in his second film, cast as Deke Rivers, he would try to sanitize his image. To do so, he co-starred alongside the wholesome Dolores Hart, who played his love interest, Susan Jessup. Elvis wanted to distance himself from rebels like James Dean. In this sensitive, family-friendly movie, Elvis Presley would do his best to soften his rough edges, and it worked. In Paramount Pictures' Loving You. His character, Deke, didn't swivel his hips quite as much as the earlier Elvis. And when, quote, the nice boy, Deke, started catching on as a singer, he donned silk shirts instead of his denim jacket.
Loving You, the first big modern musical built around the fiery personality of Elvis Presley.
I figure his color's yellow, don't you?
Presley, a dramatic surprise in this hard-hitting, frankly revealing story of an American kid who fought and sang his way to the top. Elizabeth Scott as the publicity gal who ran his life. Wendell Corey as the band leader who didn't like the way she did it.
I let him kiss me. Was that so wrong? He needed some kind of reassurance that he wasn't alone.
Reassurance? Is that what they're calling it now?
Dolores Hart as the girl who loved him too much to hold him back. Follow him through the barnstorming days and the one-night stands. The big moment when the girls discovered him and he discovered girls. See what happens when a down-to-earth kid goes too high, too fast.
What kind of a town is this? You can't do this to us!
One of the things that makes America great is the right to a fair hearing. Yet, you've condemned Deep Rivers without it.
It's not my future you care about, it's yours. It's what I can do for you. You don't care about me or Tex or anybody, just yourself.
You've got 15 minutes to get on that stage and find out if you've even got a future.
In Loving You, Elvis's character was an all-American rock and roll kid, and naturally, Elvis introduced some of his big hits, including Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear. The film became a template for Elvis movies. A working-class boy, lifted from obscurity, who stood up to bullies and always got the girl. The rebel was back in his next movie. And young Elvis not only got the girl, he got a stretch in the penitentiary and made some new, well, friends. And he even took his medicine, a haircut. And he even learned how to dance. Here is a new Elvis you've never seen before, a jailbird, who could croon his way through almost anything in Jailhouse Rock.
Vince Everett, dynamically portrayed by Elvis Presley, was a tough blackboard jungle kid who became even tougher under the influence of his jailhouse cellmate. A terrific performance by Mickey Shaughnessy.
I'm an animal in the jungle, and I got a motto. Do unto others as they would do unto you, only do it first.
Do it first. That's right.
Jailhouse Rock is the astounding success story of this rebel with a voice that rocked the world.
But he wasn't so rockin' on the dance floor.
Jailhouse Rock is also the love story of this rebel.
How dare you think such cheap tactics would work with me?
I need tactics, honey. It's just the beast in me.
The fires of violence still raged in Vince as he fought his way to fame and fortune in the exciting world of popular music.
There was plenty of singing and his famous jailhouse dance.
And then came Hollywood.
No, Vince, let's try it again. Vince!
How do you like our movie star, Peggy?
He has adapted very quickly.
Well, there's not much oxygen up where he is, and the man gets lightheaded. Tramping on me is one thing, Sonny. Hurting a little girl like Peggy is another.
Now, just don't you go getting no ideas, huh?
There comes a time when you gotta take a hand in things, and that time is now.
Don't push me.
I'm gonna beat hell out of you.
Don't try it. You're talking crazy, man.
You know you got it coming, son.
I said don't try.
Elvis not only introduced some great new songs, he established himself as a genuine movie star in 1957's smash hit, Jailhouse Rock. And the very next year, Elvis put on a uniform.
Elvis Presley no longer has that rock and roll beat. The tempo is hut, 2, 3, 4 for Private Presley. He's at Camp Chaffee, Arkansas, beginning his 2-year Army hitch courtesy of the Memphis Draft Board. Like any ex-civilian raw recruit, the king of rock and roll will be keeping time to non-hip bugle calls. Involuntarily retired, the gyrating guitarist's departure from the public eye left his blue jean fans all shook up, so we hear. But Elvis doesn't seem to mind at all.
While Elvis served his country, the movie he'd made prior to his draft call not only earned him more than most Army privates, it also earned him the respect of film critics in '58's King Creole. Naturally, there was plenty of music and crowds of adoring women surrounding him. Set in the music capital of New Orleans and loosely based on Harold Robbins' novel Stone for Danny Fisher, Elvis's Danny played a reformed thief who went straight and took up singing.
There were to be many women in Danny's young life, but only two who really counted. Nellie, who knew too little about love.
I've never been to a place like this before. But I want to see you again. Is this the way?
Ronnie, who knew too much.
Ronnie, what are you doing here with this man? How'd you get into this?
How do you get out?
Fighting for the upper hand, the devil-driven temper that was his pathway to destruction.
Get out of here, Ronnie! Don't come back!
You're a pretty fancy performer, ain't you, kid?
Now you know what I do for an encore.
Now he crowns his meteoric rise to fame with a fiery burst of dramatic power as hard-loving, hard-hitting Danny Fisher, who sang his way up from the gutters of lusty, brawling New Orleans.
I've stacked chairs and bottles and swept the floor up of every joint on Bourbon Street. It's gotten so I look longer at a dame with clothes on and one without. I'm not a hoodlum, but I am a hustler. I've had to be for a very simple reason.
Though it was only his fourth movie of 31, it may have been his very best film, and the stellar cast didn't hurt, with Carolyn Jones, Walter Matthau, Dolores Hart, Dean Jagger, Lillian Montevici, and Vic Morrow in Hal Wallace's King Creole. After 2 years' service in the Army, mostly in Germany, Sergeant Presley left Europe to come home.
An international crowd of reporters and photographers from all major news outlets in Germany arrive at Ray Barrick's Friedberg for a special press conference. The most famous enlisted man in usurer during the last year and a half is about to go back to his millions of fans. Because he has been almost completely away from singing and acting while in the Army, reporters have plenty of questions about the future to ask Sergeant Elvis Presley. Elvis says he plans to continue with his style of rock and roll singing, but without his famous sideburns. However, his greatest interest is now in serious dramatic acting. Also of great interest to reporters are his feelings about the Army. When asked by a Screen Digest interviewer if his military experience has been beneficial to him in any way, Elvis said,
"It's been a big help in both my career and my personal life, because I've learned a lot. I made a lot of friends that I never would have made otherwise, and I've had a lot of good experiences and some bad ones, naturally. It's good to rough it, to put yourself to a test, to see if you can take it, and see if you can stand up under it."
Another thing we hear a lot about in the Army, especially here, is that we are not only soldiers but goodwill ambassadors.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, that's definite. It stands to reason, because we are in a foreign country, and what we do here will reflect on America and our way of life.
As the press conference ends, photographers move in to get that one last picture. An attractive girl reporter gets a kiss, and then an encore as the flashbulbs pop. Elvis has only 1 day of processing before leaving usurer. He takes with him many good memories and pride in his military service.
And when Sergeant Presley flew the Atlantic to return home from Germany, a daughter of one of his friends was there to greet him.
At Fort Dix, New Jersey, Sergeant Elvis Presley is mustered out after 2 years of Army service. The rock and roll idol of millions is back on the scene. Among his greeters, Nancy Sinatra, daughter of another well-known vocalist. Elvis is glad as can be to be back and eager to start singing. He's also nearly interested in becoming a serious actor. The Army's loss may be the drama's gain. Who knows?
Elvis, pictured here in his next movie, was proud to have served. Naturally, like in this still from the 1960 movie, the Army wasn't all work. He even managed to do a German-style puppet show, just to have a little fun when he was off duty. So it wasn't so surprising that in his first film, after being discharged from the Army, Al Wallace directed him in G.I. Blues.
Paramount's rousing, rollicking story of America's ever-loving overseas GIs, with a skyrocketing star who really lived it.
Fire! On the way.
I'm so pleased you came to Germany. I'm going to write a thank you letter to your draft board.
Yes, America's most talked about, written about ex-GI is here to show the world there's been some changes made by that rugged tour of duty with the battling tankers. See him swing out with his buddies to take West Germany by storm.
And Elvis's buddies were more than just GIs. They were Nashville-style backup singers.
It's a 3-day pass at those frolicking Fräuleins, but the dancing darling who blocks every pass has all the GIs in a spin. And guess who the boys are betting on to break through her defenses? It's Elvis on a love campaign no guy or gal should miss.
Liebe. For those who do not understand, Liebe translated means love.
Oh, you don't have to explain that to a GI. That's one of the first words he learns when he gets over here.
Oh, you too, Tulsa.
An encircling attack on a magic carpet ride to paradise.
Look, boy, the roof's caved in. Captain Hobart's on his way over here. He'll want to talk to you.
What about?
You're asking me what about? Who won the bet for us? He did stay in your apartment till morning, didn't he?
As Army Specialist Tulsa McLean, Elvis Presley had moviegoers waiting in lines a block long just to get in to see his comeback movie, G.I. Blues. In this Western drama from 1960, Elvis plays an Indian, a half-breed that is, whose name is Pacer Burton, who seeks revenge on unscrupulous white settlers who aim to steal Indian land. While doing so, they shoot his mother. Like a good son, he'll go to any length to save her, even taking a little girl hostage in a desperate attempt to lure the doctor to his mother's bedside. There's the usual Western rough riding while fans were treated to a bare-chested Elvis at his macho best.
I want to see every one of them dead.
You're talking foolish. And you talk like that, you sound like a kid.
Yeah,
well, that wasn't what I was going to say.
You don't feel it like I do about Ma's death. I'm Indian. And I'll never forget the whites killed her because she was Indian, too.
The white man's song was on Pacer's lips.
Hi-lo, do-si-do-si, single and save $1.
But an Indian war cry was in his heart as he was torn between two loyalties, two loves, and he fought to save them both.
Not being my friend, you will be my enemy. And this house and all in it will die.
But they wouldn't hurt us, Pacer. They're our own people.
No, Ma. They ain't my people. To tell the truth, I don't know who's my people.
With Steve Forrest as Clint, Pacer's white brother, who battled courageously at his side. Barbara Eden, whose pale-faced beauty fired the conflict in Pacer's soul.
You were the worst. You made me feel it the worst.
And Dolores Del Rio and John McIntyre as the Indian mother and white father, caught in the middle of a savage, relentless struggle.
Well, this looks like it's going to be a real bad war. Everybody in this whole part of Texas is going to be in it sooner or later.
It was a time of vengeance, of the land being challenged by white man and red. It was a time for Pacer, the half-breed, to choose. And whichever path he took, he had to hurt someone he loved.
The movie from 20th Century Fox was Flaming Star. If you like scenery, the kind you can't find at home, with beautiful blue water that's kissed by the sunshine, or if you like girls, the type you find in glamorous movies, or if you just like Elvis Presley, you'll like this film from 1961. In beautiful Hawaii, just 2 years after it became the 50th state, Elvis plays a returning soldier, a rich kid, who'd rather be a tour guide than take his rightful place in high society. Directed by Hal Wallace, this film has everything you'd expect in a film with a name like Blue Hawaii.
With Elvis as your personal guide to America's exotic Eden, our Polynesian paradise. Elvis brings you the vacation of your life in his first big musical since the sensational G.I. Blues.
It worked. She's jealous.
As he hits the beach with the most luscious armful of delight on the islands.
Don't you like it?
Oh, I love it. And I thank you for thinking of me.
Oh, I wasn't thinking of you. I was thinking of me.
Yes, the most gorgeous Wahinis on Waikiki are taking lessons from Elvis when he gets a job guiding gals with more than scenery on their minds.
Life is not easy for Hawaiian tour guides, but Elvis tries hard to make the best of a bad situation.
Do you want to kiss me again?
I don't rob cradles.
Did you ever see anything like this in a cradle?
Naturally, there was plenty of music, including his big hit, Can't Help Falling in Love with You. And could Elvis possibly be in paradise without some romantic guitar music? And a dance floor packed with singers and backup percussion so he can swivel his hips and knock the girls dead.
I'm going to dance with Frenchie.
Excuse me, Mr. Gar.
Please.
Oh, go on. Turn him loose, sis. Turn that tiger loose.
Elvis's character, Chad, gets in trouble. And when he gets out of trouble, he knew where to find the girls, how to make them dance around him, and how to really rock a movie house. The concept of Elvis in Paradise was so well received, he came back to Hawaii and shot 2 more films, but none were as grand and exotic as 1961's Blue Hawaii. A year after playing a rich Hawaiian socialite, Elvis is a poor Southern boy who lives in a ramshackle house with his pa, an adopted sister. Nonetheless, he's back at the beach at a different location. This time, it's sunny Florida in 1962. Follow that dream.
Follow that car. It's headed for this theater, loaded with the most happy-go-lucky group of wanderers who ever came down the pike chasing after a rainbow. And the happy-go-luckiest of them all is the one and only Elvis himself. Uproariously funny as a lawman who does everything wrong but gets the right results. Elvis, absolutely irresistible as an unwilling Lothario who turns to ice every time a lovely lady turns on the heat.
Anybody ever tell you you're very handsome?
Only girls. Take care of the sheriff, Pete. Turn on the music. And make it loud. I like it loud. are you waiting for? Where's your gun?
I got it.
Though Elvis proved to his fans and critics alike that he could be a great comedic actor, he was true to his form in this film from United Artists. There was plenty of singing the poor but honest Toby Quimmer, Elvis's character, offers the audience, and plenty of guitar strumming to impress his co-star, Anne Helm, who played his sister, adopted sister that is. A little different? Yes, but like all Elvis Presley films, he serenaded his love interest, and slowly she came to him. And he got the girl. And like so many Elvis Presley films, there was sun and fun in Follow That Dream. His scriptwriters just loved the image of Elvis as a returning soldier, and as a fighter too. But this time, it was his profession. Of course, he got his licks in too when he wasn't working. He was, after all, Elvis, the greatest screen lover and fighter and singer. As Private Walter Goulet, he arrives in New York's Catskill Mountains in search of a job.
It's the inimitable, incomparable Elvis Presley, shaping up like a fistful of dynamite as
Kid Galahad!
It's a knockout. A honey of a picture full of that Elvis kind of action. That Elvis kind of lovin'.
What do you do when you feel like this?
People usually get married, I understand.
By 1962, when this remake of the 1937 film that starred Edward G. Robinson and Humphrey Bogart was released, everyone knew what to expect in an Elvis Presley movie. Lots of romantic songs, lovingly crooned to his female lead, who adoringly watched and was mesmerized by the good-natured rebel and his charms. And they'd walk hand in hand in some romantic venue where Elvis proved to have total command of everything, especially the girl. Elvis co-starred with Gig Young, Lola Albright, Joan Blackman, and Charles Bronson.
Nobody asked you to come here. All you had were your empty pockets and a shine on the seat of your pants.
Don't push me, Willie. I'm a grease monkey that won't slide so easily.
Shut up, I said.
You can't yell loud enough to make me shut up. Till I tell you what I think of the fight game. I think it stinks. And when it does for me what I want to do, I'm getting out.
Lest we forget where the name Kid Galahad came from Sir Galahad, the boldest and bravest knight in King Arthur's court. And Elvis filled his shoes well, with a few rock and roll moves, lots of singing, and his old army uniform. Though this one was released in 1964, they're still talking about it, even today. Elvis met not only his love match, but as some said, a real female Elvis, Anne Margaret. And they burn up the screen in the swingingest, singingest, grooviest entertainment sensation set in America's entertainment capital. Viva Las Vegas from MGM.
Viva Elvis! Viva Anne Margaret! Viva the excitement when these two let themselves go on a wild and woolly whirl through Funtown, USA. Yes, the sky's the limit for love, laughter, and those wonderful new sounds.
If you ever heard of screen chemistry, this is it. When the two just looked at each other, it was so hot, it was ready to explode. Only 22 years old at the time, the Swedish-born beauty oozed with sex appeal. Of all of Elvis's co-stars, she was the only one who matched the king in terms of her talent and sheer star power. And Elvis was dazzled by her, and so were his fans. The songs Elvis introduced in Viva Las Vegas wasn't exactly the rock'em sock'em fare in his usual films. Instead, it was love song after love song, and there was screen magic as the two fell in love amid some of the most romantic ballads the king ever sang. You could practically feel their hearts pounding as they came together.
It's a pleasure to hear a man's opinion and not have to listen to the stubborn ravings of a boy who won't grow up and...
The plot is about singing race car driver Lucky Jackson, who begins falling in love with Anne Margaret's character while intent on winning the city's first ever Grand Prix. Years later, Anne Margaret admitted to their love affair, despite knowing about Elvis's girlfriend, Priscilla Beaulieu, who waited at home. Priscilla would wait 3 more years for Elvis, but it was worth the wait.
Elvis Presley weds Priscilla Ann Beaulieu, and one of America's richest teenage singing idols promises to love, honor, and obey. The couple first met in Germany. Both are Memphis natives, and Elvis, 32, gave Priscilla Ann, 22, a wedding ring with 21 diamonds. Why did the pelvis desert bachelorhood? Said he, it's about time.
It wasn't your typical Elvis Presley film. It lacked the pretty girls and the magnificent scenery. But Elvis fought, though not with his fist. Instead, he used a 6-shooter. And Elvis wasn't much to look at either. Not only was he bearded, he was sweaty and dirty, and he rarely smiled. And one more thing, he was a criminal. Elvis plays a former outlaw, Jess Wade. His character leaves his outlaw gang to go straight, and they don't like that one bit. Taking place in a Mexican border town, Elvis stars in this 1969 film, Charro.
Don't move, Jess. Nobody makes a move to stop me, one of you never makes another move. All right, boys.
On his neck, he wore the brand of a killer.
All right, let him up. Billy Roy.
On his hip, he wore vengeance.
What do you got in mind, Jess?
All you gotta do is turn around and walk outside.
All right, Mr. Big Jess Wade.
If we don't set Billy Roy free, Vince Hackett will blow your whole town apart.
Oh, my God! It's been over a year. I wondered how long it would be before you'd come back.
Elvis plays opposite Tracy Winters, who remains unknown even after getting such a plum role. In fact, other than Elvis, you probably never heard of anyone in this cast.
A different kind of role, a different kind of man.
Now, how come so much money don't appeal to you, Jess? You don't even have to raise a hand to get it.
In 1969, in his 31st and final film, Elvis had a slightly different look, though the girls still gathered round him as before. And some of the, quote, girls also had a different look. The set was the inner city and not very glamorous. The movie was titled Change Your Habit, though it really wasn't much of a change from the old formula Elvis movies, though the girls' wardrobes certainly were. Elvis plays a doctor, though he looks more like a rock star. Mary Tyler Moore plays a nun and his love interest. It also starred pop singer Barbara McNair and introduced lovely Jane Elliott.
Please don't.
I get a feeling there's a message here. Like maybe there's somebody else?
You could say that, yes.
An idealistic doctor and three sisters of mercy doing their thing in a tough city jungle, facing situations hard to cope with. Romance beyond their bounds and the madness of our times.
Late parties, profane music till all hours. Forsaking the habit was one thing, but now you're not even dressed like females.
Father.
I've had enough of you. I want you out of my parish.
Father, we've done nothing to be ashamed.
In honor of San Juan de Chaguez, all debts to the banker are hereby canceled.
Sure do like trouble, Irene.
Lucky for you, you're wearing that gunny sack, Dinge.
Well, don't let that stop you. You small-time gorilla.
I'm just gonna lay all my cards on the table. But this place can slow you down, you know what I mean?
I wish there were an easy answer.
Let's try to find a way, Michelle.
Could he change her life? Could she forget her vows and follow her heart?
There were only 3 songs in the film. Perhaps Elvis would have sung more if he'd known there would never be another Elvis movie. And the music did stop. 8 years and 50 pounds later, Elvis would be found dead from an apparent heart attack at his home, Graceland Mansion in Memphis, Tennessee.